Hello and welcome to Not Made in China, the podcast where we talk all things adoption and the beautiful madness that comes with it. I'm Shaosheen, your host, and today's episode is a very interesting one because it's a reminder that adoption doesn't always look or feel the way we expect it to. My lovely guest Sophie was adopted within the UK at just 10 weeks old, grew up in a family where adoption was talked about very openly, and she really feels like being adopted is just not a big deal. We talk about what it was like growing up with really supportive parents, her relationship with her foster family, and having an adopted brother who also just gets it. We also get into some of the misconceptions around adoption, like the idea that all adoptees want to meet their birth parents, and how her understanding of adoption and herself had shifted as she's got older. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about, so let's jump into it, and I hope you enjoy eavesdropping on our conversation. Sophie, welcome to Not Made in China, and thank you so much for joining me.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat about adoption.
Yeah, me too. And it's so funny how we met over TikTok because
I know.
I'd only just started posting on there. I forced myself, I knew I had to. And then within the first month I met you, so it's all been worth it.
I love that. That's so nice. I feel like TikTok is the space to I don't know, you find so many people on there and you're like, I feel like I've had this really niche experience and then there's 700 people who've also experienced that and it's really nice. Kind of weird, but nice.
No, I know what you mean. It's often you find there's a community there that you kind of knew existed, but then didn't realise just how engaged it would be.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, I've not had a single experience that someone else hasn't had, which is great.
But I'd love to just know a little bit more about your story. I know we chatted about it, but just to share with everyone else, because of course we know you're another lovely adoptee. So it'd be great to dive into a bit more about your story.
Yeah, of course. So obviously I'm Sophie. I was adopted when I was 10 weeks old. It was really quite a nice adoption, really easy and simple. My birth mum she just decided I'm too young. I can't offer this child a family life that I'd want them to have. So it was kind of always a thing that was going to happen right through the pregnancy, and then obviously I was born and then put into foster care, and I had a really lovely foster family. Obviously I can't remember them because I was literally a baby, but I've got really nice pictures with them, and I spent my first Christmas there, and then my mum and dad adopted me, and I've got a brother who's also adopted, and yeah, it's just been, I guess, a really nice story.
It's so good, and that's really lovely to hear. And it's great to hear that your foster family were also really supportive, really lovely. And do you guys still stay in touch at all?
No, I didn't. That's one thing I always think about. I wonder if I should contact them, or I don't know. But yeah, I just never stayed in contact. But it's really nice just to know that I think they did it for a lot of children. They not adopted, but fostered a lot of younger children in their kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, transition period between being born and adopted. And I just think, oh, that's such a nice thing that they've done in their life. I think they were an older couple, and I was like, oh, I don't know, that's just really nice. And I was like, what nice people.
I know, it's such a wonderful thing to do, and it can't be easy as well because they must become so fond of the children they look after.
Yeah, I know there was so when I was in foster with them, they had another young boy. I can't remember his name now. That's going to annoy me so much. But I think they'd had him for a while, and he had Down syndrome, and apparently he just loved having me as a baby around. I was a very calm baby, apparently. So I was like, oh, that's so nice.
That's really sweet.
Yeah.
And how do you feel about being adopted? Because I know people have such mixed opinions about it.
Yeah, I think in general, I think I've been really lucky to have the parents that I have, and they're so easygoing about it. And I think obviously it helps that I have an older brother who's also adopted. So it was kind of just always something that was spoken about. It was never a big sit down conversation taboo thing. I think growing up when I was younger, never really thought twice about it. I was just like, this is a thing that is my life. And then I think it in secondary school it was slightly, I wouldn't say hard, because again, I could always go home and talk to my parents about stuff, but I think in secondary school people say things and you're a bit like, oh, it's not a real family and stuff like that. But I think because my parents were always so like supportive and open, it was easy to just go home and be like, God, someone said this today and it was really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, yeah, I feel really lucky for that. And I think that's one of the things when I talk about being adopted in general, like people always assume it's a sad thing or like something happened. I'm like, no, I just have really amazing parents.
It's such a
Which is
lovely
nice.
way to see it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And my mum always says, she's like, you were chosen, like we wanted you so much, and I just think that's really nice.
I think that's such a beautiful thing, and it's lovely that you've got incredible parents now and that they've been so
Yeah,
open about it, because I can imagine if they hadn't been, or if it'd been a secret, that could have then potentially been really
yeah,
damaging.
yeah. I always like, I think that's the thing with like talking about adoption openly as well, is like there's always going to be people who maybe didn't have a good experience, and
Mm.
I really feel for them because it, I think that'd be really difficult. Like, obviously adoption comes with those difficult feelings as well. Like every now and again, you'll have those moments where you're like, "Oh, it is kind of weird that you were given away," and it is a
Yeah.
weird thing. And I think if you had that, but also had a negative experience with the family, um, that you end up with, or even if you didn't even end up with a family, people stay in the system for their whole lives. I think, yeah, it's really hard. I think, but that's the nice thing about talking about it openly as well, because I imagine that a lot of people don't get a chance to speak to people who are adopted as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's so important to be able to speak to people who've had similar or completely different experiences than
Yeah,
you. And as you said, I think, well, of course, all adoption starts with loss, and there are often there are difficult emotions that come with it, and it is a traumatic thing,
yeah,
but it doesn't mean the whole story has to be a dramatic
exactly.
sob story. And I think drawing the line between those two things can be quite difficult, because
Yeah,
even recently I've said like, oh, with adoption, it doesn't, well, in my experience, I don't see my story as a sob story. And then people have said online like, oh, but surely it is though, because it's really sad that your parents couldn't look after you, and surely that's really, how is that not a sad
yeah,
story? And I'm like, well, yeah, that is really sad. And of course, there's lots of loss to kind of process from that, and things that I'm sure are going to pop up more and more as I get older. But
yeah,
also, my life's been so amazing, and I don't see the story overall as a sob story, because I'm kind of similar
yeah,
to you. I've been really lucky with my parents, and they're super open about everything as well.
yeah. No, I get that. It's almost like having like two stories, isn't it? Like there's the bit that happened before I was born, and
Yeah.
that's kind of not my story either. That's her story. And I think, like you said, it kind of, as you get older, I feel like I've got so much more empathy for that as well. Like, I think she was like 21, and I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
God, that must have been so hard. Like, I'm 27 now. I'm like, I can't imagine going through that at 21. Like, that, yeah, I can't even imagine having the emotional like maturity to be like, I want to do this and give this baby like the best life. Um, but yeah, I feel like that loss and all those hard emotions, it's almost like it didn't happen to me and it's not my thing, which I think, I don't know, that's how I see it anyway. Um, because for me, it's like, yeah, there is the sadness as in it, like that must have been really difficult for her and stuff, but because I've always grew up where it's been so like nice and open, and I have such, like, my parents are my parents, like I wouldn't think of them as any other, so it's kind of like, yeah, like split in two.
It's a really interesting way to look at it, because, yeah, I guess it really is our birth parent story as well. And so often I
Yeah,
feel birth parents kind of get left out of the narrative a bit, and the story starts from when you got adopted, or
yeah,
birth parents just get a bit of a look in like, oh, yeah, your birth parents abandoned you, and then now you have this amazing life. But
yeah,
I think it's amazing that you have so much empathy for your birth
yeah.
parents. I think
I think
and it's
that's
really
only,
important.
yeah, it's only really a thing, I think, now that I've been like in my 20s myself, and I'm like,
Hmm.
God, I couldn't have done that. Like, that's really hard. And I think sometimes with when people see it as this big like taboo topic and like something sad must have happened, It's like it probably did, but not to me. It's like their thing. Yeah, I think a lot of people have mixed emotions around the birth parents as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Like depending on what happened. And I think, I don't know, you know, when you see the TV shows like Who Do You Think You Are and stuff, and they're like, how could they have done that? And it's like, it must have been a lot for them too. Like,
Yeah.
that is so much to go through and then live your life afterwards. So, yeah. But I think, like I say, that's only a thing that's happened in my 20s. I feel like when I was younger, I was just like, yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Not really thought about it.
It's so fair. And I think with adoption especially, your feelings around it can change as you grow up, and you'll experience, as you said, you'll go through your 20s and then think, oh my God, like I couldn't have done that at 21.
Yeah.
And you do develop different levels of empathy and understanding, and or I don't know, that later in life it might suddenly be more challenging. But I think it's nice
Yeah.
to be able to know that you can just go through the motions, feel how you need to feel about it, whether that be positive or negative. And especially having
Yeah.
supportive parents, I think, is crucial, because then you can talk to them and just know you've got kind of a safe space to feel those feelings in.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like my parents being so open about it has always helped me, as in like whatever feelings I was feeling, I know that I can go to them and be like, yeah, this is weird. And even like that empathy, like I've spoken to my parents about that and been like, God, that must have been really hard. And because I was adopted because both my parents had fertility issues, so they just wanted a baby. And they were like, yeah, I think they can feel that empathy too. And then I also get empathy for my parents, as in like if I wanted a baby and couldn't, like that must be really hard to have to, you know, go through all your friends having babies and
Yeah.
you're not able to. And yeah, I think, like I say, as you get older, especially as a woman, I feel like it's so many different feelings now that I'm like, gosh, that's really changed from when I was younger.
Massively. And nothing's ever black and white. There are always grey areas and they're always changing. And it's hard to keep up. I feel like sometimes you think, okay, everything's settled now. Like I've worked through this. And then
Yeah.
like a month later, something random will just get under your skin and shake everything off again.
Yeah. I feel like that's so often on TikTok as well. Like, I posted about the misconceptions about
Yes.
adoption and stuff. And one of the ones that I said was, so I'd been in a conversation where I'd said about, I can't even remember how it came up. It was something where I'd said about if I ever got pregnant. And bearing in mind, I have no idea if I want to have kids. So it wasn't really a conversation that I even wanted to have. And then people were like, oh, would you not adopt? And I was like, oh, never really thought about it.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't have
why?
to.
Yeah. And there was kind of that thing of being like, why wouldn't you? Like, you were adopted. Why wouldn't you adopt? And I was like, I don't even know
You
if I
tell
want
me.
kids. Yeah, I was like, this is a lot. And I was like, do I have to adopt because I'm adopted? Like, that's never been. I was like, what? And that stirred up so many different ideas in my head where I was like, I've literally never thought about this, and it's really
No.
strange.
It's so interesting, and it's fascinating how as soon as you put something online, people think they can just tell you what you should and shouldn't feel or should or shouldn't do. I appreciate you
Yeah,
post, like we both post things online, of course, that opens you up to different comments and so on.
yeah,
But it still blows my mind just how the audacity of some people.
literally. I was like, and people were really going like in depth, like I feel like I should because of X, Y, Z, and I was like, totally fair, but I've never thought about it.
Yeah, it's
Like,
so fair.
yeah, I was like, this is I don't know, it's one of those things, isn't it, where you're like, I think fertility and adoption and births and whatever route you go down, it's such like, I just don't think you should really discuss that. Like, obviously discuss it if someone wants to, but having opinions on whatever someone else wants to do, I was like, really strange. But that's not one that I'd came across till TikTok.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah,
I understand people might think, oh, we might understand the process more or know what it's like, so therefore might be in a better position to adopt a child. But then, as we've just said, everyone has such a different experience. There is no
yeah,
adoption manual. Like, it's not like, okay, we've completed steps 1 to 5 of adoption. We're officially going to be
literally.
amazing parents. It's like, no, it doesn't
Yeah,
work like that. And then on top of that, to tell someone, yeah, or to be like, well, why wouldn't you adopt? It's like, mind your business. Mind your own
Yeah, I
business.
was like, what? I was like, I'm so confused.
Yeah.
But I said it to my mum and she was laughing too. She was like, that's so strange. And I was like, I'm so glad that I can come back and be like, this is weird.
That's something that's so deeply personal. And how do they know that you've thought about that, or why would they even think that's a good idea to bring up? That blows my
Yeah,
mind.
I know it's such an odd one, but even in like, I remember in school, I did, like philosophy and ethics
Yes, yeah.
classes, and we had to talk about abortion in that as well, which obviously that's quite a topic that gets people get riled up sometimes. And I said like I'm very pro-choice, and then
Yeah.
someone in the class was like, "Aren't you adopted? Why would you?" And they got really like
Oh my
offended
God.
by it, and I was like, "I'm so confused." Like I was like, really strange.
Why would they think that being pro-choice would go against being adopted? I'm so confused. Are they implying, I don't know, I might be wrong, but are they implying that if abortions didn't, if they weren't allowed, or sorry, if they were allowed, then you might not exist?
Yeah, that's what they said. They were like, "Oh, but
How
if your
bizarre.
mum could have got an abortion, then you wouldn't be here." And I was like,
What
"That's
the
not my
hell?
thing to deal with." Like, I was like, that would have been her choice, and I wouldn't have even been here to dispute that. Like, it's
Yes,
just not
yeah.
that deep.
It's so valid.
I was like very confused. Yeah, it was really odd. But I remember going home to my mum and being like, this person said this in this class, but I had so many good comebacks, and I was like
Well
really
done.
stuck up for myself.
Good for you. Well, do you remember what
She
you
was like,
said?
yeah. I think I just said something like that, like about how it's, if that had happened, then I wouldn't be here anyway to talk about it, so it doesn't really matter. And to be honest, I probably said something along the lines of like, if I was her, I probably would have not went through with it anyway. So more power to her. It's like it's just so strange. And me and my mum had a laugh about that one. We were like, yeah, I don't know. That's a really odd one that no one's ever said it since, thankfully.
Good.
But yeah, very strange.
It's a really bizarre thing to say. And again, the audacity to say that about something so deeply personal and
Yeah,
basically saying, well, you shouldn't believe what you fundamentally believe because you might not exist. It's like,
literally.
what?
I was like, that's odd.
Very odd. Yeah, people do like to
Yeah.
stick their noses in. And then also the fact they were getting so riled up about something that's really nothing to do with them.
And I think like they weren't even against abortion anyway, so I was like, why are you like shouting at me about it? It's really strange.
That's so bizarre because I assumed from that they believed the complete opposite. And then they're
Yeah,
like, and you should
same.
believe it too. But the fact they
Yeah,
actually agreed with you and then they're still saying to you,
yeah,
they couldn't understand. I mean, I suppose, well, at least they learned something that day, hopefully.
yeah. Hopefully. I think me and my mum were talking about it and we were both a bit like, it's kind of good that I am so open because it kind of, I don't know, when people have those strange opinions and you can be there and be like, well, actually, I've been through this and don't agree. I think that helps sometimes because I think people just blanket statement everything. They're like,
Massively.
oh, adopted people all feel like this. And it's like, no, there's so many different like stories and
Yeah.
everyone feels differently.
But it's so true. Everyone does feel so differently for different reasons, or we might feel the same way for different reasons, or
Yeah.
there are just everyone has such a unique experience and you just can't ever generalize. But do you ever come across any kind of regular misconceptions or blanket statements about adoption?
I think when I was younger, it was a lot of like Tracy Beaker was like the thing. It's like the CBBC show of the time. So I feel like that was always like, oh, is it? I don't know, as if everyone's in like a children's home and it's all like Tracy Beaker. And I was like, I mean, some people might have that experience, but that's not mine. I think another one, I guess not a misconception, but kind of that everyone wants to meet their birth parents. And it's always like, have you met them? Do you want to meet them? And I'm like, no. And then that's always like blows people's minds. They're like, what do you mean you don't want to meet them? And I'm like, just never really thought about it.
Yeah, again, that's so fair. And is that something you spoke to your parents about?
Yeah, because they've always been so like, if you want to do that, we'll support you, like we'll help you, like do whatever. But it's just never been a thing that I've wanted to do. I think it's one of those things, I think if you haven't been in the situation, maybe it's hard to understand, but I don't know, it'd be like meeting a complete stranger, and that feels really awkward to me. And I don't know, it's just like obviously never say never. And I know I've watched people online where they have met them and they've either had good or bad experiences. But I just think it's a lot, isn't it? And I was like, that's like once you kind of open that door, you kind of have to, like, there's no closing it again. Like, you'd have to have this person in your life in whatever way. And I was like, I can't really be bothered. Like, I'm quite happy as I am.
It's so fair. And it sounds like you have such an incredible family. And I guess, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but do you sometimes feel that you don't necessarily know what meeting your birth parents would add if you already have your family?
Yeah, definitely. I think it could be really difficult, as in not only for me but for like my birth mum, because so when I was adopted, it was only my birth mum on the birth certificate. She never put my birth dad on there. So that's kind of like, that's always the one that I've been more curious about, because there's like no information. But again, I'm like, that'd be really strange to just turn up to meet someone and be like, so you had no idea I exist, but here I am.
Surprise.
And yeah, it'd be like, imagine that happening to you. I'd be like, oh my God, what?
You'd have the shock of your life.
Literally. But yeah, I think there's nothing that I feel like is missing, which is obviously, I feel really privileged for that. I think the only thing that I ever think about is like health stuff. You're like, oh, I wonder if there's any like health things, mental health things that get passed down. But I feel like you'll probably get this as well. But when you go to the doctors and they're like, do you have history of this, that? And you're like,
maybe.
Yeah, like could be on there.
Roulette.
Yeah. And then the doctor always gets dead awkward. They're like, oh, okay.
No, I'm sorry. I'm like, no, don't be. It's fine.
Yeah, like, it's totally fine. But yeah, that's the only thing I've ever wondered.
Yeah, it's so fair. I think for me, I've never really been too worried about it, but it is a bit of an awkward one when you're sat in the office and they go through like all this list of stuff and you're just thinking, oh my God, I just don't know.
Literally, I'm like, do I just say no, or do I do the adopted thing? What can I be bothered to do today?
Just take it day by day.
Literally.
And for me, I quite like not knowing, because I guess then I'm never worried that, this might happen in the future. I'm just kind of like, whatever happens, it is what it is. And even if someone said to me, we could give you your whole medical history now, I don't know if I'd want it. I mean, I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, that's so fair. I feel like it could, I don't know, maybe you'd be more anxious, like if there was something on there that you're like, oh, didn't know that was a thing. Like, I feel like I've got to nearly 28 now. I don't think I need anything. If it happens, it happens.
I feel the same as you. I think, I mean, I'm the same age. So I'm just like, I just don't need, my plate is full enough. I don't need anything else.
Yeah. But yeah, that is so true. I feel like at this point in life as well, and if I ever did have kids, I imagine that makes life busy. I just don't know where people find the time to do it all and like meet this whole of a family.
I know, it blows my mind. Like, I was even just looking after, not they've looked after friends' kids very often, or been around like relatives' kids and stuff. Like, they're so brilliant. But I'm also like, how do you have the time and the energy? Like, after a few hours, I'm shattered. Like, I love kids, but after a few hours, like, my energy is through the floor. And I have so much respect to parents. And I'm thinking, like, how do they do it? Because I get tired just living my very easy life. So goodness knows how you do it, trying to keep this thing alive.
I know. I have a dog as well, and like looking after a dog is enough for me. Oh my God, that's what I mean. Like when people were saying, wouldn't you adopt and all of this, I was like, I don't even know if I want kids. Like my dog's enough at the minute.
So one step at a time.
Yeah.
And also with adoption, there's so much, I'm going to sound really lazy, but there's so much paperwork and it's so much effort. And I have so much respect for people who do it and do it for the right reasons. But for me, it just feels like a lot of effort. And that sounds terrible because I know I've only got my life now because these two people were willing to
Yeah.
go through this whole process. But I just don't know if I've got the energy for it. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, and it seems like really invasive as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, obviously amazing that people do it, but when my parents talk about how they had to get like references off people and all of that, I was like, God, it's a lot, isn't it? Like it's more, if you were just having a kid, however it's naturally done, like you just kind of can go into that. Obviously, best case scenario, people have difficulties, but the adoption, like it feels like it takes years. And I know my parents were older when they adopted me, so I think when they adopted my brother, they were like early 30s, mid 30s, and then obviously I came like 6 years later. And even my mum says now, she's like, I'm so glad that we were older because we had more patience and more time. I was like, yeah, like now, I always thought when I was a kid, like 28, that's so old, like I'll have a kid by then. And now I'm at this age, I'm like, God, I
It's like,
don't
give
know
me
how
another 5
people do
years.
it. Literally, I was like, oh, yeah, I can't do it. I'd need like maybe like mid 30s. And then, yeah, I was like, it's a lot.
It is. It's so much to think about. My parents were similar. They were a bit older when they adopted me, and again, I think it just helps. I can imagine they've lived a bit more life and they have a bit more
Yeah,
patience, and
literally.
yeah, there's so much respect
Yeah,
to them for doing it because I genuinely don't know if I ever could. So I asked my mum once, like, how would she feel if my birth parents came back and said, "Oh, we want her back," but then she said, "Well, they couldn't. They could try, but legally, I'm theirs now, so
yeah.
it is what it is."
I don't know. Sometimes as a kid, I did think about that. Like, what happens if someone just comes along and they're like, I'm this person, and you'd be
Oh
like,
my
oh.
god. I'd be mad. It'd be like that would be like a movie.
Literally, I'd be like, oh, don't know how I feel about this.
No.
I know, especially with like social media now. Like, obviously, for me, like growing up, I didn't really get social media till like a teenager.
Yeah, same.
But imagine just being like found online. That's
God,
crazy.
it's so mad. And in terms of knowing much about your birth mother, do you know much about her?
Yeah, so I think I got quite a lot from them. So
Hmm.
especially compared to my brother. So my brother has like nothing.
Okay.
He was just it's really sad. He was just left in the hospital,
Oh,
and that was it. But he's so blasé about it. He's like, yeah, not bothered. um, which I think is good. I think that's such a testament to how my parents handled it as well, because yeah, he just feels so comfortable with it.
good.
But for me, I had like pictures and like a little kind of flip through photo album, and my mum put together like a box where when I was little, we did like a My Story thing, which is like a photo album, and she helped me do like a bit of a family tree and kind of write all the bits out, that's so nice to look at now, as in like I don't know, I was showing my partner it, like, I think it was only last year, and he was like, as if I've never seen this, and we've been together like 8 years. And I was like, yeah, I
Have
just
you?
didn't even think to show you. um, but yeah, I've got loads of pictures, and um, I kind of know bits about like why it happened, like I said, about her being too young, and I think I've got pictures of her side's like grandparents as well. Which was I always found it really cool when I was little, just like having all these pictures of people. And I think it is interesting to see, but it's kind of weird as well because you're like, I don't know who these people are.
Yeah.
It's really strange.
And how do your parents feel about you talking about your birth mother? Are they? I mean, they seem really open about it, so I can imagine they're pretty chill.
Yeah, yeah, always been so chill. And I think I don't know if it was something they were told to do or if they just found it somewhere about the making like a story of it. But I think that kind of helped me understand it as a child as well, because obviously it's kind of a weird concept, isn't it? Like, obviously for me, I'd known no different, so that's how it is. But yeah, it's kind of, I think that would have helped me as a child be like, this happened and this is the story of it. And I'm so sentimental as well. Like, I love collecting things, and like I have scrapbooks to this day. It's probably because my mum sat down and did that with me.
Oh.
But I just find it so interesting to have like those photos, and like I've got pictures from the foster family, and then obviously pictures when my parents first visited me, and my brother's in the pictures when he was little, and I was like,
Aw,
that's so cute.
that's so sweet. And it's lovely to have those
Yeah.
memories, and or maybe not even memories for you because if you were that little,
Yeah.
but just having those photos and just yeah, just like seeing what your life was like and understanding it through a
Yeah.
story. And it must have really helped you with kind of coming to terms with like who you are and where you come from. And that's just such a
Yeah.
lovely thing to do.
I know, and I think as well, like knowing, I always find it so fascinating now. Like, so my partner looks so much like his mum and dad. Like, I can see how they've like merged together and made him, and then like he looks like his siblings, and that was always something that like I find it amazing when I meet people and they look like their parents. I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Because obviously I don't have that. But seeing those photos, you kind of like, I say that I don't see it. Like my mum's always like, yeah, you can see in this picture that you look like her, and I'm like, I don't see that, but fair enough. um, but even then, like I always used to get it when I was growing up. People be like, oh, you look so much like your dad, and me and my dad would laugh about it and
Really?
be like, you don't.
You definitely don't.
I was like, there's
Oh.
no way.
Unless you reckon you might have picked up some mannerisms or just being around each other for so
Yeah,
long. So it's like maybe the way you speak or like facial expressions. I don't know. Do you reckon you
definitely.
can learn those as you grow up?
Yeah, that's something me and my partner always talk about. He's like, it's so funny that you're not like blood related to your family because yous are all so similar. He was like, you've got like a perfect mix of your mum and dad, as in like certain traits that they have and the way they act. And he's like, you can see it. So, especially me and my dad, he's like, your personalities are so similar, but we are both Scorpios. So,
Same.
I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I feel like whenever I meet another Scorpio, I'm like, oh my God.
It's
Because
like you can
everyone's
tell
so mean
immediately.
about them.
I know.
They're
Got
always
such a
like
bad
the worst star
reputation.
sign. I'm like, rude.
Oh my God. The audacity. No,
I know, it's
definitely
like,
the best.
yeah. So yeah, me and my dad are both Scorpios, so I think that helps.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
I know, I know, it's really funny, and I think it's funny how he's picked up on it as well and been like, these are so similar. And even me and my mum, like, I think we're both like, I've definitely picked up a lot of traits from her, as in like, we're both quite anxious people. And like, just little things we do, like, um, having to go to the toilet about 20 times before we get in a car and stuff like that. Like, it's so funny.
It is so interesting. And it also makes total sense that you would pick up those behaviors
Yeah,
and just the way you are. Because I am such a believer in nurture, get the right around, nurture over, well, not over nature, but your environment just has such a huge impact on
yeah,
the person you become. And you might have sort of genetic predispositions to certain behaviors, but I think unless it's nurtured, it's not going to really come into
yeah.
fruition.
I know,
But
it's
then
so
that's based on no
interesting,
science
isn't it?
whatsoever. But
No, no, I agree. It's so interesting to think, isn't it? Like, even though we aren't blood related, there's so many similarities. And even like me and my brother, I'm like, we're so similar in weird ways that can't, like, it's obviously a, what's it called? Coincidence, that's it. Yeah, because we both got like a mole on our back, like in the same place.
no way.
And we both have really bad hay fever, and my parents don't have hay fever at all. And they're like, isn't that such a weird
That
coincidence?
is such a coincidence.
Yeah, I was like, it was meant to be.
Yeah. And you were saying that your brother's quite blasé about being adopted. So do you feel like you have quite similar or quite different outlooks on it?
Yeah, well, my brother's autistic, so I think that helps. He's very just like matter of fact with things. He's like, that happened and doesn't really affect him. So yeah, I think having him around and him being 6 years older, and like because he is autistic as well, I think the way he speaks about things is very factual. Like he'd just say to people, like saying the doctors, if they were like asking him about stuff, he'd just be so upfront. Whereas sometimes I'm like, no, don't know, no, and like kind of sit back a bit. So I think that helps, like my opinions on it all. And I think obviously with him being adopted as well, that's also really helpful, as in I imagine, obviously it's not my experience, so I can't speak for people, but you know, if you were adopted and then maybe other members of the family aren't, I imagine that dynamic's slightly different to navigate. I think both of us having similar stories has been nice, and even though I've never, so I was saying this before, wasn't I? But I've never met anyone else who is adopted, so it's nice having my brother there too, who is, and you can be like, I don't know, it's just nice having both of us.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's so important to grow up with other people who have been through something similar and can just understand what you've gone through.
Yeah,
And it doesn't necessarily have to mean you have to talk about it all the time, but just
yeah,
to have that sort of common understanding of no, like you get it.
yeah, exactly. And I think my parents being so open as well, they've kind of been that person for me where I'm like, I don't know, like I said, like if someone says something weird or something funny, and even they have like experiences where people have said things and they're like, oh, that was strange. And now that I'm older, they like say it and talk about it, and I'm like, it's nice that we're all so open. But yeah, I feel like sometimes when I've met people are like, you're very open with your parents. I'm like, yeah, we tell each other everything.
I think it's
Like
great.
best friends.
I think that's wonderful. I think it's so important to
Yeah,
talk about how you feel and just have like a really safe space just to say exactly
exactly.
where you're at. And also, yeah, like you said, when people say weird things, just to have them to go to and know they're not going to judge and they're just going to be like, actually, yeah, that is weird. Like, let's talk about it. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, same. Some people have commented on my TikToks before, like, I want to adopt a child. What are some things that your parents did? And obviously, I can't speak for them. And I'm like, I have no idea, no authority on this. But I think that's one thing that they've done so well, is just making it such a normal conversation. And to be fair, anything in life, any problems that I've ever had, it's so easy to go back to them and be like, this thing's happened, and I feel really lucky for that, because
Oh,
I think adoption is difficult for a lot of people, and having no one to talk to about that is really hard. So yeah,
yeah.
I feel very lucky.
Oh, I'm so glad you had such wonderful parents. It is, and it is just
I
so
know.
important. And it's interesting talking to other people or even seeing other people's kind of comments on TikTok and stuff, and just
Yeah,
seeing how many people didn't have that experience. And it just must be so, yeah, it must be so challenging to not have people to go to
yeah,
talk about how you feel about things because it's your life. But then these people who are your parents, you're meant to be able to be completely yourself around. You can't talk about something that's made you fundamentally who you are, and I can't
exactly.
imagine what that must be like.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of, that's probably a misconception as well that some people have, is that you can't talk to your parents about it because there's like that weird, I don't know if it's like a guilt thing or you don't want to make them feel uncomfortable, but thankfully, like my parents never put that on me. I think because people have those opinions where they're like, it's not a real family, or like the birth parents are so important, whereas for me, it's like, that's never been a thing. Like, I've never really thought too much about them. I don't know. Like I said, I think it'd just be awkward. Yeah, that I feel like that's something, like you say, as I've got older, I've thought about more. And like the birth parents thing, don't really think about, but I listen to, I think because I've been to therapy quite a few times, and like I'm always trying to like work on myself, and yeah, I always think it's never really something that I'd thought about affecting me. Like I listened to a podcast from someone who was adopted, and he was talking to, I can't remember if it was like a therapist or he's a therapist, but either way, he was talking to someone really interesting. um, and he was saying he had quite a difficult adoption, as in he was adopted by his grandma, so he still had his parents in his life, but they were addicts and things like that.
Wow.
Um, so very different, but I still thought it was interesting what he was saying, because he was talking a lot about how it affects you and you don't even realize that it's the adoption. And I was like, yeah, that's so interesting, because and me and my mum were speaking about it before, like going into school and I'd cry and just wanting to always be with my mum. And I think I do have definitely an anxious attachment style. Like I'm always like, oh my God, I'm such a people pleaser. I'm like, I wonder if that's somewhere subconsciously like trying to get people to be like, stay with me. Obviously, never delved into it because it's, even though I am a people pleaser, I don't think it's a bad thing. Like it's not ruining my life. But yeah, I always think it is really interesting now that I'm older to kind of look at that side of things more and be like, I guess it's kind of that journey of like understanding yourself. And maybe that's why I don't want to meet them, because I'm like, I'd rather understand myself and like my own story rather than theirs, because I think maybe it'd complicate everything in my brain. I'd be like, God, as a people pleaser and someone who's very empathetic, I'd be like, this is a lot.
That's a really interesting way to look at it. And I think it makes so much sense that you'd want to kind of process things on your terms in your own way without any kind of external influences getting in the
Yeah,
way. Because, yeah, if you add your birth parents to the mix, that's going to really shake things up and doesn't give you the space you need to really think for
yeah.
yourself. But not think for yourself. That's really patronizing.
No, yeah, I get what you mean. I think it is one of those things that, like you say, I never really thought about it because I was like, obviously my parents are amazing. Like, growing up was fine. Like, nothing really bad happened. But I think it is one of those things that it does make me wonder, like, deep down, I wonder how it's affected me, like, really, really deeply. So it is interesting. I think just like researching it in my own time and like listening to other people speak about it, I'm like, so interesting. Like, obviously, it doesn't affect me on a daily. So it's just kind of one of those things that as I've got older, I'm like, yeah, it's interesting to think more about. And I would have never when I was younger.
It's such an interesting one, and everyone comes to terms with it in their own time, and that's also like so fine. There
Yeah.
is no clear roadmap of like, in year 27, here's what you'll experience. It's like, no, it could be at
Yeah.
any time, anywhere, and yeah,
Yeah.
it is fascinating.
I think now that I'm older, I'm able to see it more of like, this is part of what happened to me and
Yeah,
it's part of my story. And I feel like it must affect people, even if
yeah,
it's so subconsciously, like, because I think I always thought when I was younger, I was like, well, it can't have affected me because I was a baby, so how would it have? Because I can't even remember. But it's those like people pleasing things and some anxieties, and I'm like, oh yeah, maybe it did, but
yeah,
it must have been so subconscious. Because like my parents, I wouldn't be like they never left me alone. So it's not like, do you know what I mean? But I think I was just always as a kid so scared of that,
yeah.
and so scared of like, I remember just being like, oh my God, I don't want them to die. And it's like, why was I thinking about that?
I completely get it. Like, I think I was the same. I'd have dreams about them like dying or being like chased
Yeah,
by bears or mad shit. Or just
yeah,
yeah, really ridiculous dreams. And I don't know about you, but I got really homesick. That I just could not be
yeah,
away. Like I was a nightmare going to sleepovers because at like midnight my parents would get the phone call and they'd have to come and pick me up.
yeah,
So
same.
yeah, and I think it is such a common experience, and I really do think it does affect you even if you've had the most beautiful life. And I think society doesn't help. I think there's this whole narrative sometimes of, oh, you've been adopted, you have a beautiful life, you should be grateful for that, so why would you
Yeah,
feel negatively about being adopted? Whereas
yeah,
actually, also, or why would you have negative feelings to do with adoption when actually being adopted and losing your birth family and what might have been, that's a really traumatic thing. And you can be so grateful for everything that happens afterwards and for your parents and for the life you have, but it doesn't take away from that experience. And it stays with you, I think. And especially when it happens when you're so young, again, it's that misconception of, oh, you're a baby, you don't remember it. And I always even told myself that. I was like, oh, but I was little, like, why should it
yeah,
affect me? But then like trauma stays in the body. And I suppose when someone said to me, I can't remember who it was, but when you are so little, and when something traumatic happens to you, it stays in your body and you can't express it verbally because you're so small. So it will just
yeah,
stay there until you kind of just soothe it and address it and work through it. And I thought that was
yeah,
really interesting.
yeah, definitely. Because I think for a long time I kind of felt like, oh, it's not even worth like thinking that that's connected, because it's like you kind of feel guilty for it as well. Like I said, I didn't have like a dramatic, horrible story, and I feel really lucky for everything. But it is one of those things where you're like, it must like it's so obvious when you think about it. Like, why was I so anxious? And I think as well, one thing that I've noticed that still affects me now is um like TV and media, and I think consuming,
Interesting.
well, not even like actively consuming media, but obviously there's so much negativity around adoption, and I think as a child that must have like seeped into my brain, because I think, like cartoons and like Disney films where like their parents die and stuff like that, and then in my head I must have been like, oh my god, if my parents die, like I'm going to be left alone and I'll have to go into foster care, and then and just like spiraling in my little like
Oh, bless you.
6-year-old brain. It's like, yeah, that it is mad that now that I'm older, I'm like, yeah, that definitely did impact me.
That's so understandable. And do you remember any specific films or cartoons that you used to feel like that way about?
No, I don't think so. I remember really hating James and the Giant Peach. Like
Did
even now,
you?
like it freaks me out. Like, the beginning bit with
Yeah.
like the rhino. Oh, like I hate rhinos really scare me, and I
Do
think it's
they?
because of that.
Oh, bless you.
I know, but I think does his mum die or something?
I
Can't
think so,
remember.
because I used to love the audiobook, but I never saw the film.
Oh, it's quite
So
scary.
is it? Oh gosh, I'm glad I didn't watch it, because I used to get scared of the Teletubbies, but that's a whole other conversation. Oh my god. I mean, so it is
Yeah,
so fair that that would affect you, especially as a 6-year-old, because that's the closest visual you have to, or sorry, closest cultural reference you have to what's kind of might have happened, what happened to you, or what could
yeah,
potentially happen. And it's really scary, and it is terrifying when you can relate to a character on film and then something horrible happens to them, and then it's like, oh
yeah.
my god, like, is that going to happen to me? Like, what?
Literally, I do think it must have been like TV and film, because I'm like, how else would I have been so scared of that? Like, I just don't know where that would have came from otherwise. And like I say, like my parents, they were always around. It's not like I was going like stay with grandparents or anything, even though my nana and granddad and everyone are so lovely as well. But yeah, they were always there. So I'm like, why was I so anxious that they'd leave? I'm like, yeah, it makes sense now that I'm older. So I work for a charity that it's amazing. They're called It's Time, but they support young adults who've lost one or both parents. And so my partner lost his dad, and it's funny because so many of them say like now that that's happened to them, they get really freaked out about people dying and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I'm like, in a weird way, I get what they mean, because that was me as a kid being
Yeah.
like, oh my God, what happens if my parents die? And I'm like,
Mm.
I don't know why I was thinking so much about that. And like you say, even as I got older, and I probably didn't even realize at the time, but like with friendships and relationships, I was always like, oh, what happens if they die? And I've always said to my partner Andy, I'm always like, I hope I die first, because I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
My God, why am I so worried about it?
No, but I get it. And like my partner, again, he's amazing, but then he'll like sometimes joke about being like, oh, I'm just gonna like drop dead one day. I'm like, what do you mean? You're not allowed to do
Stop.
that. You have to live, like, you have to live forever. And it really, like, deep to the core, like, freaks me
Yeah,
out, because the idea of
yeah,
someone dying on me, I'm like, no, I can't. That just can't happen. Like, I just can't.
literally.
I can't cope with
Even
that.
though no one died, I'm
Yeah,
like, my birth parents aren't dead. Like,
yeah.
I don't know why that's so, but yeah, the anxiety of it, I'm like, oh. And even like, when I moved to uni, I only moved like an hour away. I got so intensely homesick.
Oh,
I was
bless
like,
you.
me and my parents are like best friends. I'm like,
Oh,
I was literally an hour away, and I was like, those people at York Uni, like who'd came from Surrey or whatever, they were really far away, and they were like, yeah, I'm fine. And I was like, why am I not okay? Like, I was like, I'm so sad, and I could get on a train and be home in an hour. Like, it's not that deep. This sounds really weird, but since getting my dog, like we got him as a puppy, and obviously you have to take them away from their parent, and he cried the whole journey
oh,
home, very dramatic. And even now, like, he doesn't like being left on his own, so someone's always with him. And he has really bad separation anxiety. And I was like, I feel you.
I get it.
I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. It
Bless
doesn't sound
him.
weird at all. It's so, yeah, it's just it's so understandable.
Yeah. And I was like, I've adopted him and he feels the same way I
Yeah.
do.
No, but it's so fair, and it makes complete sense because it is really exactly the same thing.
Yeah, in a weird way it is, isn't it? I was like, God, I feel really bad for taking him away. But I was like, oh, he'll have the best life.
He will.
But yeah, I think that is one thing, like I say, getting older, you kind of, I don't know, like allowed myself to feel that more and be like, yeah, that makes so much more sense.
Mhm.
Because for so long I was like, why do I feel so anxious?
Yeah.
Like you said, I feel like a really bad partner sometimes because I'd be so anxious and like, God, this isn't normal. But then you like, yeah, work on it yourself and kind of work through it and understand it more. And then I feel like you have more empathy towards yourself when you are feeling like that. Like if I'd done that before uni, I think I would have felt a lot more settled at uni and been a bit more calm because I feel like I spent the whole of uni just on like high anxiety, being like, oh,
It's so lovely what you say about learning to have empathy for yourself, because I feel like just as humans, so much of the time we'll take the time to be kind and empathetic to other people, but then we'll just completely forget to do it to ourselves. And
yeah,
that's actually when that's really the most important person you should be showing empathy for.
yeah, that's so true. Because I feel like I do it like to everyone else. I'd be like, oh, they feel this way because they've been through this thing, and kind of psychoanalyze them, which I know that that's kind of bad, but I feel like I'm so like in touch with it that I'm like, yeah, they're obviously feeling this because of this. But when it came to me, I was just like, what the hell? Like, chill
Hmm.
out.
Yeah.
Even like falling out with friends, like, I'm so against confrontation in every way because it makes me so anxious that
Hmm.
I'd just totally break down and be like, can't deal with this confrontation.
Hmm.
Like, and even then, I'd probably lose more friends because I was like unable to even have that conversation because in my head I'd be like, this is the end of the world.
Hmm. It
Which
does feel like
yeah,
the end of the world.
yeah. And I think when you are so anxious about pleasing people and losing people, it was like this is the worst thing that can ever happen. And
Hmm.
then you kind of just shut down and don't deal with it very well.
It definitely takes time to unlearn that and just try to like learn to sort of be calm and just respond as opposed to react.
Yeah.
But it takes time. It's hard. It's really hard. We can only do our best.
Yeah. And I'm like, I've only just figured this out. And I feel like it must have been just after lockdown that I had therapy. So I'm like, I'm still working on it. Like, I've got time.
Yeah, definitely. And it's amazing that you are. And I think that's the most important thing. Like none of us are perfect. But the fact you're like taking responsibility for for yourself and your feelings, I think that's amazing. And also giving yourself a chance to be kind to yourself and understand why you might feel the way you do. So important.
I suppose everyone's been through something, haven't they? But being through something like adoption, and that's kind of like your whole life, you do kind of have to take some time to like understand it a bit more. And I think because it was always a thing throughout, like it's always been spoken about and all of that, like it was so good for me, and I feel like I've got a good start on it, as in like I don't have any trauma around like being told about it because
Mm.
I can't even remember. So I feel lucky in that sense that I'm kind of a bit ahead, but it's also kind of like allowing yourself to look back and be like, yeah, that probably did affect me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I can still have like a really happy life and know that something as big as that is going to impact you, but it probably impacts everyone involved as well, which is kind of mad to think about. You like your life and all those decisions before you were even born affect so many people in different ways. And I always think like, I hope that they've had that kind of empathy journey as well, and they're able to look back and be like for my parents, I'm like, I hope that they, obviously I talked to them about this as well, but like as I say, like being, I guess, I don't want to say late 20s because that makes me feel really old, but I guess
Can we say
late
mid?
20s.
I still
Yeah,
sound mid
mid
20s. I'm not,
20s.
but
Yeah, like, but yeah, knowing that like everything that my mum went through with like trying to conceive and stuff, and like that's something that I've like processed in my own brain and have so much more empathy for like my mum and dad about that. And then also I always think about like my birth mum. I'm like, I hope she doesn't feel upset about it or like guilty about it,
oh,
because I guess that's the only thing that if I was to ever meet them, I'd want to be like, yeah, I had a really happy life, because I
yeah.
imagine that's something that you'd think about a lot. But yeah, I always think that it is mad, like people must have had so many emotions around this one thing. Obviously nice ones too. And that's the positive. Like I think um that obviously there is those negative connotations around adoption and like it being really sad, and obviously there is sad parts to it, but so many nice bits as well. Like my parents were always like, we just really wanted another child, and we were so happy when you came up for adoption, because we were like, finally, because obviously 6 years is quite a big age gap, so they were really happy about it, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad that it all timed well.
It all works out. I think everything works out the way it's meant to
Yeah,
in the end. But
exactly.
and I'm so pleased that you had such a wonderful experience, and your family. Your family sound great. They sound like amazing
Yeah,
people.
they are. They're like, I'm always like, we're like best friends, and then be like, so mad how close you are to your parents. And I'm like, yeah, it's the best.
But it's great. Like, I'm super close to mine, and yeah, I'll just tell
Yeah,
them like anything and everything. But it's nice
yeah,
because then you just feel like you're not going to get judged, and a nice space to be able to be exactly who you are and show up as your full self.
yeah, exactly. I feel like that's so helpful as well. Like, if you are adopted, it's one of those things where you kind of need that safe space to be like, these are my feelings.
Yeah, because there are so many complex emotions that come with being adopted, and
Yeah,
they'll crop up randomly at different points in your life. And just to have people you can go to express those feelings without judgment or defensiveness,
yeah,
it is so important. And I can imagine it isn't easy being an adoptive parent and kind of hearing that your child like might miss like their birth parents, because or I don't know, or might have
yeah,
negative feelings about being adopted, and to have the emotional maturity and understanding to go, I know they're not saying that they don't love me as a parent, or I haven't failed as a
yeah,
parent. They're just talking about this really traumatic thing that has happened to them and is very real. And I'm now going to make sure they feel safe and they can talk about it and we can work through it together. I think
yeah,
that's amazing. And I think it's so important.
yeah, same. And I think they're such amazing people for even, because I don't think I'd have the emotional maturity. I'd be like, oh,
I thought, what do you
I'd
mean you're
be like,
unhappy?
oh.
I've given you
Yeah,
everything.
literally, I'd be like, I've worked so hard for this, all that paperwork. I'd be fuming. Especially to have me and Daniel. I feel like Daniel's my brother, that they didn't know he was autistic and he was adopted, and I'm just like, wow, like you're so patient, and like everything they do for him, I'd be like losing my mind. Like he's not that hard, he's fine, but it's a lot to take on,
Yeah.
and to take on two children. But they were like, that's what we always wanted. I'm like, oh, amazing. Just don't know how you
Oh,
do it.
yeah. Got a lot of
Like,
respect
wow.
with them for sure.
Yeah, I'm like in awe. I'm like, I could never. I'm always like, even if I did have kids, I think I could only do one.
Oh, same. I think, yeah, one's enough, I think. I feel like
Yeah,
maybe we'll end up having more, but yeah, one's, I'd be so fine with that.
yeah, I was like, these are amazing. But I guess they were older too. They're very young at the minute. Like I
If I
couldn't
got
do
pregnant
that.
now, it's a teen pregnancy.
Oh
That's how
yeah,
I'd see it. I'd be like, oh, I'm
I'd
too
be
young for
like,
this.
oh my god, how do I tell people?
Yeah. And just as kind of like a closing thought, is there anything you wish people, or is there anything you wish more people knew about adoption?
I think just knowing that it's not always negative. I think that'd help a lot more people be more open about it, and not see it as this like big scary topic as well, of like, are you allowed to like talk about it? Am I allowed to ask questions? And I was like, yeah, whatever, totally open.
I think the more we talk about it, the better.
Definitely. And hope, like I say, I feel like that helps people feel more connected, Because I guess it is part of your identity, isn't it, being adopted? And I think it's hard sometimes when you kind of feel disconnected from that community, and being able to talk about it positively, I think, is really helpful, and it kind of like validates your experience too. You're like, oh,
Yes.
it's nice to chat and not be like, am I okay to say this?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having this
No,
chat. It's been lovely.
I know, yeah, I feel like I've had like a really nice therapy session.
Oh, same. It feels great. I'll cancel my
Yeah,
session for next week. It's wonderful.
yeah, literally, I feel uplifted.
Oh, I'm so glad. But it was, yeah, honestly amazing to chat. And I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing your
No,
story
thanks
and
for having
perspective.
me.
Anytime. You're always welcome back.
Love that. No, it's been so nice to chat about it with someone who is adopted as well. Because, like I said, I feel like I've never met anyone. I say this, I probably have met people who are adopted and either I can't remember or they're just not as. I feel like I'm just an oversharer. Maybe they're not. Someone will be listening, like, I'm adopted too, and you've definitely met me.
I've been best mates for the
Um,
last 20 years.
Literally, I'd be like, oh God. It's nice to meet someone else and talk about it
Oh.
openly who is adopted too, because, like you say, there's so many things that you're like, yeah, I relate to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just nice, isn't it?
It's lovely, yeah, having like shared experience and yeah, just like being able to say something and then yeah, you just get it and yeah, it's really
Exactly.
affirming.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like cathartic to speak about it.
Definitely. I really enjoyed talking to Sophie and loved just how chilled and matter of fact it felt. It's such a good reminder that even when adoption has been spoken about openly, and even when you've had a positive experience, it can still affect us in ways that we might not fully understand until later on. We spoke a lot about empathy for our birth parents, our adoptive parents, and also for ourselves. Our feelings around adoption don't stay the same forever, and that's completely normal and completely okay. It doesn't mean we're ungrateful or overthinking it, it just means that we're growing and learning more about who we are as we get older, as I'm pretty sure we all do. I also found it really interesting comparing our experiences. She grew up with an adoptive brother but didn't really know any other adoptees, whereas I grew up surrounded by them. It just goes to show how different our, for lack of a better word, journeys can be, even when we share this one big thing of adoption. If you're listening and noticing that your own feelings around adoption are changing as you get older, I hope this episode helps you feel a little less alone in that, and also reminds you to just be kind to yourself and be easy on yourself, because it is so normal. And if this conversation resonated, maybe share it with someone who might find it helpful too, whether that be an adoptee, a friend, or someone just wanting to understand adoption a little bit better. Thank you so much for joining me. I post episodes every other Tuesday, and you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Not Made in China Podcast. I'll see you next time.